The way to change your life. Chapter 1, Time and Space Interlaced. 5-year-old Yaoer, a young but already wise girl, was sitting in a corner of the study, looking at the pictorial in front of her. Just as her eyes widened to focus on the story of the richest man in the pictorial, a violent dizziness caused her to suddenly faint. When she opened her eyes again, she found that she was no longer a 5-year-old Yaoer, but a 3.5-year-old self. What's going on? Yaoer rubbed her eyes. The room in front of her was still the same familiar and dilapidated room, and even the cracks in the wall seemed to be unfamiliar. However, as she looked around, she found herself in a completely different era, the 70s. When she looked down and saw her unfamiliar little hands, in an instant, her mind was filled with countless questions. Could she have crossed over? As memories emerge, Yaoer suddenly realizes that all this is more than a simple crossing. Not only did she go back to when she was 3.5 years old, but she was also back to the very beginning of her life. At this moment, she is still the youngest daughter in the family of 6 people, the youngest one. However, the most surprising thing for her was yet to come. She found that the family situation in this era was completely different, and her father was still the person she was familiar with, but at the moment, he was still a broken widower, and his career was not improving. And the 5 brothers have not yet become the most vicious people in the future, and the tragedy of fate has not yet been staged. All this made her both stunned and a little skeptical, but soon, she realized that this time, she was no longer the delicate girl who had nothing to do, but a future decider who had been reborn. She must use this opportunity to change the trajectory of her fate, especially the fate of her 5 older brothers. Her first task is to find a way to use this mysterious reform system to put her 5 brothers on the right path and stay away from the tragedies that may come in the future. Chapter 2, Reforming the Evil and Returning to the Righteous System. This strange being, called the reform system, is the only weapon that Yaoer has obtained after crossing over. It seems to be some kind of mysterious power that can influence the human heart and help her change those who are destined to go to the point of no return. The system boots, please select the target. The system's voice sounded coldly, with an irresistible sense of command. Yaoer sorted out her thoughts a little and whispered into the air, I want to change the fate of my 5 elder brothers. They will be the villains that the whole society fears, and I have to change that. Target confirmed, 5 brothers. The mission begins. As the voice faded, Yaoer felt a subtle force enter her body, and her thoughts seemed to become clearer. She began to plan how to use this power to change her brothers' future and prevent them from going down the wrong path. Chapter 3, The Fate of the Brothers. Yaoer's 5 elder brothers, namely, eldest brother, Su Wenhao, an impatient and very emotional person, is always easily influenced by the outside world, and will make drastic decisions when his mood changes. Second brother, Su Wenyuan, smart but selfish, overly self-centered, always thinks that he is better than others, and is easy to ignore the feelings of others. Third brother, Su Wenhua, introverted and timid, always chooses to escape when facing difficulties, lacks decisiveness, and is easy to be bullied. Fourth brother, Su Wen's, stubborn, like his father, always treats things rigidly, lacks the ability to be flexible, and always thinks that everything is family-oriented. Fifth brother, Su Wenlong, young, but extremely rebellious, always rebellious against the rules of the family, unable to control himself. Yaoer knows that if she doesn't intervene in time, these 5 brothers will eventually become more and more deviated from the right path because of their respective character flaws, and may even embark on the path of violence and crime. What she wants to do is to use this system of reforming evil and returning to righteousness to fundamentally change their thinking and behavior. Chapter 4, Startup Plan. Yaoer chose to start with her eldest brother Su Wenhao first. He is the most susceptible of the 5 elder brothers to the outside world, and he is also the one who is the most likely to go astray. That night, Yaoer quietly entered Wenhao's room. I saw Wenhao sitting at the desk, his brows furrowed, obviously a little upset. She stepped forward and said softly in a sweet tone, Brother, why don't you listen to your sister? Wenhao looked at her, a trace of surprise flashed in his eyes, and then he turned back to an anxious appearance. Yaoer, what are you doing here? Don't bother me anymore, I don't even know anything about this right now. Yaoer didn't flinch, and smiled slightly, Brother, sister can help you, I know your current predicament, if you continue like this, you will become more and more anxious and directionless. You will also become impulsive and do things that you regret. But, brother, in fact, your advantages far outweigh these difficulties. As long as you can calm down and figure out what to do, your future will be very bright. Wenhao was stunned for a moment, as if he was deeply attracted by these words. He looked at Yaoer, gradually put down the pen in his hand, and his eyebrows were no longer so anxious. He looked down in thought, and finally nodded, maybe you're right, I should change something. Smiled slightly, and said silently in her heart, the first step is successful. Chapter 5, Gradual Change. Next, Yaoer began to change the plan for the other 4 brothers in turn. She uses the power of the system to influence their minds and help them break through the barriers in their minds. Whenever her brothers are in trouble, Yaoer will appear by their side and use her wisdom to guide them to find a way out so that they no longer make impulsive or wrong decisions. The eldest brother Wen Hao began to become calm, learned how to adjust his emotions, and gradually moved towards success. Under the guidance of Yaoer, the second brother Wen Yuan learned to be humble, began to listen to others' opinions, and became less selfish. The third brother Wen Huao, with the encouragement of Yaoer, gradually overcame his timidity and began to face difficulties bravely. The fourth brother, Wen Zhe, also became more flexible under the influence of Yaoer, and began to learn how to handle housework and work flexibly. The fifth brother, Wen Long, under Yaoer's patient guidance, began to realize the importance of family and gradually withdrew his rebellion. Chapter 6, A Twist of Fate. As the brothers became more mature and stable one by one, Yaoer's family gradually radiated a new brilliance. The father is no longer the hopeless widower, and the atmosphere of the family has become warm and harmonious. And, due to the change of their brothers, they began to actively devote themselves to their careers and gradually created their own world. And Yaoer, as the mastermind of all this, felt extremely gratified. She knew that this was just the beginning of a change in her fate. There is still a long road ahead, but she is ready to meet the challenges ahead. Chapter 7, The Storm Rises Again. With the gradual change of the personality of the elder brothers, Yaoer's family situation has improved significantly, and her father, Mr. Su, with the joint efforts of several elder brothers, has gradually improved the economic situation, all of which seem to be moving towards a better future. However, the tricks of fate always come unexpectedly. One day, Yaoer was discussing the family's future development plan with her 5 older brothers when she suddenly received a strange phone call. "Miss Yaoer, it's me, Huang Wenyi." A deep voice came from the other end of the line. Yaoer was shocked in her heart. Huang Wenyi was a name she had heard in her previous life. This person was a businessman with strong economic strength, but he was an extremely ruthless person. According to memory, Huang Wenyi once caused the overall economic collapse of the Su family because of some transaction problems with her father, and even forced her brothers to embark on the road of crime. Yaoer's brows furrowed slightly. She didn't speak immediately, but calmly listened to the voice on the other end of the phone. "Miss Yaoer, I heard that the situation in your family seems to have changed recently. Can we talk about cooperation? I know you have a lot of potential in some areas, and if we can work together, I'm sure it's good for both of us." Yaoer's heart was vigilant. This could never be a simple business cooperation. She paused for a moment and replied softly, "Mr. Huang, I don't know how you plan to cooperate." Huang Wenyi on the other end of the phone showed a sneer. "I'm just providing you with some resources, about financial support for career development. As for the specific way of cooperation, I think it would be better to meet in person." Although these words sounded harmless, Yaoer's intuition told her that there must be an unknown conspiracy behind this cooperation. She didn't dare to agree easily, so she responded coldly, "Mr. Huang, I will consider your proposal, and if there are further plans, I will contact you." After hanging up the phone, Yaoer's heart set off a lot of waves. Huang Wenyi is not a good person. It was he who devoured the wealth of the Su family step by step, made her brothers become wicked, and even pushed them into the abyss of crime. Now, Huang Wenyi actually wants to contact her family again, not only because he wants to cooperate, but also because he has noticed the changes in the Su family and tried to intervene again. "Yaoer, what's wrong?" The eldest brother Su Wenhao noticed the expression on Yaoer's face and immediately asked. Yaoer took a deep breath and briefly told her brothers about the conversation just now. "The emergence of Huang Wenyi is a challenge for us. Whether our fate can be completely changed depends on this person." Wenhao frowned. "Huang Wenyi? It was because of the loan problem that he put our family in trouble, but I didn't expect him to have the face to come back to us. We can't work with him lightly." Yaoer's tone was firm. "We have to find a way to prevent Huang Wenyi from attacking us again." Chapter 8, The Dark Tide is Turbulent. Yaoer knew that the deal with Huang Wenyi must not be easily agreed. So, she decided to come forward and negotiate face-to-face with Huang Wenyi to find out his true purpose. A few days later, Yaoer came to Huang Wenyi's office as promised. As soon as she entered the hall, she felt a cold atmosphere. Huang Wenyi sat behind his desk, smiling, but there was an imperceptible cunning hidden in that smile. "Miss Yaoer, I really look up to my name for a long time. You are indeed a talented woman of the Su family, and you are worthy of the talent I have been looking forward to for a long time." Huang Wenyi's tone was full of compliments. Yaoer was not confused by these hypocritical words, sat down calmly, and asked bluntly, "Mr. Huang, I know that you came to me today for a purpose. I will not easily agree to any of your conditions. Please tell me your plans directly." Huang Wenyi's eyes flashed slightly. Obviously he didn't expect Yaoer to be so direct, but he quickly put away the surprise in his heart and said with a smile, "Miss Yaoer, you are really sober. However, I am sure that you will consider my proposal, because I can provide you with the necessary resources that will not only take the Su family's career to the next level, but also solve the dilemma you are currently facing. Yao Er knew that Huang Wenyi's purpose was not just to provide resources. She must be careful not to let herself and her family fall into his trap again. Mr. Huang, thank you for your offer, but I don't think we need your help. Yao Er's tone was firm and indifferent. If you still want to cooperate with us, please show sincerity, otherwise we will no longer have any possibility of trading. Huang Wenyi frowned slightly, and a trace of cruelty flashed in his eyes, but then he regained his composure. He understood that for a girl like Yao Er, mere threats would not work. He sneered, Miss Yao Er, do you really think you can stop me alone? The Su family is just an insignificant existence, no matter how hard they try, they can't compete with me. After Yao Er heard this, her heart moved, and she immediately spoke, I don't need to fight you, I just need to let you know that every step of the Su family is controlled by me personally. And you will never be able to break through my defenses. This sentence seemed to make Huang Wenyi fall into silence, and he stared at Yao Er's eyes, as if thinking about something. At this moment, Yao Er suddenly activated the Reform and Righteousness system. She prayed silently to let the system work and affect Huang Wenyi's heart. The power of the system began to work, and Yao Er felt an invisible pressure instantly restrain Huang Wenyi's mind. Huang Wenyi's gaze suddenly became confused, and his hands trembled slightly, as if he had been disturbed by some invisible force. Yao Er's heart moved, and she said softly, Huang Wenyi, I don't need you to decide the future of the Su family. If you continue to force us, you will reap the consequences. Huang Wenyi trembled slightly, and there seemed to be a hint of fear in his eyes. He bowed his head and was silent, as if he was deeply shocked by his words. After a while, Huang Wenyi finally raised his head and showed a wry smile, Miss Yao Er, you are really not to be underestimated. Well, this time I'm taking a step back and no longer pursuing cooperation with you. Yao Er smiled slightly, and breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. Huang Wenyi's plan was successfully resolved by her after all. Chapter 9, Fearless Forward. Yao Er's decisiveness and wisdom allowed her family to stand firm again. And this incident also made her more convinced of her mission, to change the fate of her 5 brothers and protect the future of the family. She knows that there will be more challenges waiting for her on this road, but she is no longer afraid because she knows that as long as she has faith in her heart, any difficulty can be overcome. As time passed, Yao Er's influence gradually expanded, and she not only changed the fate of her brothers, but also filled the future of the entire family with hope. The tide of fate may come again, but she is ready to take on any challenge and move forward fearlessly. And the beginning of all this originated from the system that changed her destiny and her firm belief. The story continues.